Many people associate the word voodoo with black magic, dolls, mystical rituals, and blood sacrifices. In the mass consciousness, it is strongly associated with something dark and frightening. But to what extent do these ideas correspond to reality? In this video, we will figure out what is true and what is a myth. The Voodoo religion is a belief system of a part of the black population of America. We are talking not only about the United States, but also about the entire continent, and especially about the state of Haiti, which is located on the island of the same name. The origin of this religion is connected with the slave trade of the 17th century. Black slaves from West Africa, in particular from the region of modern Benin, were transported across the Atlantic on overcrowded ships. With them, they brought their own traditions, culture, and religious practices to the New World, shaped by millennia. Once in a foreign land, the slaves faced the world of European Catholic colonists. The white settlers tried to convert them to their faith and fought with all their might against African cults, considering them diabolical. It was this confrontation that became one of the reasons for Voodoo's sinister reputation. However, the result turned out to be different than the colonialists had expected. African beliefs did not disappear, but mixed with Catholic symbols and rituals. This is how a unique synthesis was born, a kind of cocktail of ancient African spirituality and Christian dogmas. Today, there are two main types of voodoo, Haitian and Louisiana. The first was formed on the territory of the French colony of Haiti, where there were especially many slaves. The second was in Louisiana, an American state that was also under French control. Despite the differences, both traditions have a similar foundation. Haitian voodoo has become more well-known and widespread, and it is practiced not only in Haiti, but also in the United States. It is about him that we will talk further. In 1791, a grandiose slave uprising began in Haiti against the French colonialists. Voodoo has become for them a symbol of unity and a source of spiritual strength. The first steps towards rebellion were accompanied by animal sacrifices to gain the support of the spirits. The struggle lasted for more than a decade, and in the end, the slaves won. Haiti became the first state where power passed into the hands of former slaves. Unfortunately, it was not possible to build a rich and successful country. Haiti still remains one of the poorest countries in the world. But the main achievement of the rebels was that they gained freedom. The attitude towards the voodoo religion within the country has always been ambiguous. Most of the population remained Catholic, and not everyone was ready to accept these practices, even despite their connection with their ancestors. The state authorities have repeatedly tried to fight the cult. However, over time, the voodoo religion gained official recognition and was equalized with Christianity. Voodoo beliefs are based on the idea of a single supreme god, who is called Bondi. It is believed that he created the world and controls all things. But at the same time, Bondi is too far from people, and it makes no sense to contact him directly. To establish a connection between man and the divine, there are intermediary spirits, Loa. They are presented as powerful beings with their own character, habits, and even weaknesses. Loa are not angels or saints in the usual Christian sense. Each of them has its own sphere of influence. For example, there are spirits responsible for love, fertility, death, war, luck, or healing. Loa is revered through special rituals, songs, dances, sacrifices, and symbolic drawings, veve. These signs are depicted on the ground or on the floor to summon the spirit and channel its power. During the ceremony, Loa can inhabit the participants of the ritual. Then people fall into a trance. Their movements and words are considered a manifestation of the will of the spirits. Most often, animals are sacrificed in voodoo: roosters, goats, chickens. Animal blood symbolizes vital energy, which strengthens the connection with spirits. It is important to understand that the purpose of sacrifice is not cruelty, but to maintain harmony between people and the supernatural world. Religious life in Voodoo is very closely connected with everyday life. It is believed that spirits participate in all human affairs, from love and marriage to harvest and health. That is why they are asked for help, advice, and protection. However, it is precisely such practices that have given rise to many scary myths. In popular culture, voodoo is often portrayed exclusively as black magic, full of curses and evil spells. In fact, the dark side is present, but it is far from the only one. There is a so-called petro-magic associated with aggressive spirits and witchcraft to the detriment of others. It was from there that the legends of voodoo dolls were born, which are pierced with needles to inflict pain on enemies. But in reality, such practices are rare and are not the essence of religion. What is more important in voodoo is healing, helping in difficult life situations, restoring mental balance, and connecting with the ancestors. Therefore, voodoo priests are respected in communities. The history of voodoo goes back to Africa. The traditional beliefs of the peoples of West Africa, primarily the Yoruba and the Fon, became the basis of this religion. When millions of Africans were forcibly transported to America as slaves in the 16th and 18th centuries, they brought their spiritual culture with them. Under conditions of severe oppression and prohibition of native rituals, Africans were forced to adapt their faith. This is how African cults merged with Catholicism. The masters forced the slaves to attend church, but they found a way to preserve their traditions. They began to identify African Loa spirits with Catholic saints. For example, Ogin, the spirit of war, merged with the image of Saint George, and Ezili, the goddess of love, merged with the image of the Virgin Mary. This is how the syncretic cult that we now call Voodoo was gradually born. Its distribution centers are Haiti, Cuba, Louisiana, and Brazil. Voodoo played a particularly significant role in Haiti. It was faith in spirits and rituals that helped slaves rally and fight against the colonialists. No wonder many historians believe that the Haitian Revolution of 1791 which led to the creation of the first state of former slaves, was inspired and supported by the voodoo priests. After that, the attitude towards religion became ambivalent. On the one hand, voodoo remained a source of strength, hope, and unity for the people. On the other hand, colonialists and later European travelers spread the darkest stories about savage cults, blood sacrifices, and witchcraft. These rumors fueled fears and stereotypes that are still alive. In the modern world, voodoo is not only magic and mystical rituals, as it is often shown in films or books. It is a full-fledged religious system with a deep philosophy, rich traditions, and a complex hierarchy of spirits. The main creatures in voodoo are Loa spirits. Each of them is responsible for a specific area of life. There are spirits of love, war, fertility, death, and even fun. People turn to them for help, support, and advice. To establish contact with the spirit, special rituals are performed with music, dancing, animal sacrifices, or symbolic offerings of rum, bread, and fruits. Voodoo priests and priestesses are respected figures in the community. They not only perform rituals, but also serve as doctors, psychologists, and counselors. In traditional communities, people go to them for healing, divination, and spiritual protection. However, it is here that the most terrifying legends are born. Europeans and Americans who encountered voodoo rituals often did not understand their essence and described everything as wild magic. This is how myths about voodoo dolls, dead zombies, and blood sacrifices appeared. In reality, dolls were used as symbols of spirits and as a tool for prayer, not for causing damage. A special place in the legends of voodoo is occupied by the theme of zombies. According to beliefs, priests could use magic and special powders to take away a person's will and turn him into an obedient servant. For Westerners, this became a real horror. The image of the living dead has become firmly embedded in literature and cinema. However, researchers believe that these stories were based on real practices, the use of narcotic substances that cause stupor and temporary paralysis, as well as social pressure within the community. Voodoo dolls have also become a symbol of fear. In popular culture, they were shown as a tool for harming enemies, sticking a needle in, and the victim suffers. In fact, such dolls were used for meditation, prayer, and concentration on a particular person who was wished well or asked for help from spirits. Thus, the real voodoo turned out to be much deeper and more complex than its stereotypical image. It combines elements of African beliefs, Catholicism, and local traditions, turning into a unique system that still strongly influences the culture of the Caribbean and America. In the 20th century, interest in voodoo only intensified. Journalists, writers, and directors actively used the mystical aura of this cult. The first zombie films appeared, where voodoo was portrayed exclusively as dark and dangerous magic. This approach reinforced stereotypes and made religion an object of sensation. However, at the same time, serious research began. Anthropologists and ethnographers traveled to Haiti to observe rituals and record traditions. Their work has shown that voodoo is not limited to mysticism and fears, but is an important cultural phenomenon reflecting the history of resistance, hopes, and faith of people who survived colonization and slavery. Today, voodoo continues to exist as a living religion. Her followers conduct rituals, honor Loa spirits, organize festivals, and initiate young priests into the mysteries of the cult. For them, this is not black magic, but a way to communicate with the world of their ancestors and find harmony with the forces of nature. In the modern world, voodoo is increasingly viewed not only as a religion, but also as part of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. In Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and parts of the United States, festivals are held featuring traditional dances, music, and rituals. These events help to destroy myths and demonstrate the beauty of a spiritual tradition that has preserved its identity for centuries. Despite this, the image of dark voodoo still dominates popular culture. Books, movies, and computer games continue to exploit stereotypes about curses, zombies, and witchcraft. This image is beneficial because it attracts the attention of viewers and readers. But the reality is much deeper. Behind the outer shell of mysticism lies a whole system of views related to morality, respect for ancestors, and faith in spiritual patrons. Interestingly, the term zombie has its roots in voodoo. In Haiti, it originally meant a person devoid of soul and will. Over time, this image has been reinterpreted and transformed in Western culture. From creepy horror movie characters to heroes of popular TV series. Nevertheless, in voodoo itself, zombies are a symbol of the loss of spiritual connection and inner emptiness, and not just a bloodthirsty monster. Thus, voodoo cannot be perceived only as a terrible myth. It is a living religious system that has absorbed the history of struggle, survival, and spiritual quest. It continues to evolve, maintaining a balance between ancient traditions and the modern world. Voodoo has also had a significant impact on music and art. The rhythms of drums characteristic of ritual ceremonies have become the basis of many musical trends in the Caribbean region. These rhythms have penetrated into jazz, blues, and even modern genres. Many artists and writers have drawn inspiration from the images of spirits, myths, and symbols of voodoo, creating works filled with a mystical atmosphere. For the followers of the voodoo religion themselves, it is an integral part of their identity. It unites people, helps to keep in touch with their ancestors, and provides answers to questions about the meaning of life and justice. Rituals, prayers, and symbols become a way to express respect for the history of one's people and the belief that the spiritual world supports and guides a person. Despite criticism from some religious organizations, voodoo continues to exist and expand. It has become a symbol of cultural resilience, a reminder that faith and traditions can survive centuries of oppression and remain strong. If you liked the story, then please like and subscribe. Until the next story.